A shy girl visits a gynecologist. Shockingly, her doctor is a young millionaire. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let's dive into today's story. Lena had always been shy, especially when it came to her health. Growing up, she had never been open about her body, always feeling self-conscious about her looks and her health. So when her regular gynecologist retired and she needed to find a new one, Lena found herself in a panic. It wasn't that she was particularly sick or had any major issues, but the idea of seeing a new doctor, especially a male doctor, made her feel uneasy. Yet, life had its way of forcing her hand. After a couple of weeks of postponing the inevitable, Lena finally made an appointment at a well-regarded private practice, known for its high-end care and famous, successful specialists. What Lena didn't know, however, was that this practice wasn't like the others. The receptionist greeted her with a warm smile, directing her to the waiting room, a calm and pristine space with soft lighting, soothing music, and the faint scent of lavender in the air. Lena sat down nervously, adjusting her dress as she fidgeted. The last thing she wanted was to be in a place like this, surrounded by people who looked like they had it all together, but she knew this was the only place she could go to get the care she needed. As she sat there, trying to calm her nerves, the door to the waiting room opened, and the receptionist called her name. "Lena, Dr. Alex is ready for you now," she said with a smile. Lena stood, trying to appear confident, and followed the receptionist down the hallway. She had no idea what to expect. When they reached the door to the examination room, the receptionist knocked lightly and then opened it, revealing a young man in his 30s. He was tall, with sharp features and dark hair. His deep brown eyes looked up from his tablet as he stood up to greet her. "Hi, I'm Dr. Alex Parker. Please, come in," he said with a smile that seemed genuine, but something in his demeanor made Lena pause. He looked like he belonged in a fashion magazine, not a gynecologist's office. Lena felt an instant wave of discomfort wash over her, and for a moment, she wondered if she had made a mistake coming here. "Are you okay?" Dr. Alex asked, noticing her hesitation. His voice was warm and reassuring. "I'm fine," Lena quickly replied, forcing a smile. "Just a little nervous. No need to worry. We'll take care of everything." Dr. Alex reassured her as he gestured for her to sit on the examination table. Lena sat down, still feeling uneasy but doing her best to mask it. As he examined her, he asked the usual questions about her health, but his demeanor was different from what Lena had expected. He was calm, professional, and his care felt genuine, not cold or detached like she had imagined. But there was something more, something about the way he carried himself, the way he spoke. He didn't seem like just another doctor. There was something about him that didn't add up. It wasn't until later, after the appointment was over, that Lena would begin to wonder if Dr. Alex was truly just a doctor, or if he was someone much more than that. I had expected my visit to be just another routine checkup, but as Lena left the office that day, something lingered in her mind. The appointment with Dr. Alex had been like any other, yet there was an underlying curiosity, a sense that he was more than what he appeared. For the first time, she found herself questioning her initial judgment. Over the next few days, Lena couldn't shake the feeling that Dr. Alex was hiding something. She replayed their interaction in her mind. His calm, composed demeanor, his friendly nature, and the way he seemed genuinely interested in her well-being. It was unlike anything she had ever experienced with a doctor. But as she thought more about it, something didn't quite add up. The office was a high-end practice, and the receptionist had mentioned that Dr. Alex was one of their top specialists. But why did a man so young, so seemingly polished, choose a career in medicine? Lena knew doctors were dedicated professionals, but Alex felt like he belonged in another world, one that didn't align with the typical image of a hard-working, down-to-earth physician. It wasn't until a week later that Lena found herself walking past a luxury hotel downtown, her eyes catching a glimpse of the man she had seen in the clinic just days before. There, standing at the entrance, was Dr. Alex, dressed in an impeccable suit, speaking to a group of well-dressed individuals. He looked completely out of place with the rest of the crowd, too polished, too confident. Lena hesitated. Should she approach him? Should she confront him about what she had seen? She kept walking, her heart pounding in her chest. But something told her she couldn't ignore this. It was more than just a doctor-patient relationship now. There was an air of mystery around him, something that had triggered her instincts. Later that evening, she found herself back in her small apartment, trying to focus on her work. She couldn't get the image of Dr. Alex out of her mind. The way he had acted during their consultation, the calm yet guarded nature he had shown, it all pointed to something deeper. Was he really just a doctor, or was there more to him than she could understand? Her thoughts were interrupted when her phone buzzed. It was a message from an unknown number. Hi, Lena. This is Dr. Alex. I hope you're doing well. I wanted to reach out to see if you were feeling okay after our last visit. If you need anything, feel free to let me know. Lena stared at the message. It was a simple text, but something about it felt personal. She had never had a doctor reach out to her like this before. He had taken the time to check in, which felt odd for someone so professional. She thought about replying, but what would she say? It seemed too soon, too personal. But curiosity got the best of her. Thank you, Dr. Alex. I appreciate it. I'm doing well, just been thinking about some things. She sent the message and immediately regretted it. What had she gotten herself into? The next day, she received a call from Dr. Alex's office, but this time it wasn't about another appointment. It was about something different, something that made her heart race. Lena, this is Alex. I wanted to invite you to dinner. There's something I'd like to talk to you about, something important. Lena felt a rush of emotions. Dinner? With her doctor? It sounded so out of place, so wrong. But the way Alex had said it made her second-guess herself. Why would he want to talk to her outside of the office? What was it that he had to say? Hesitant, Lena agreed to meet him the following evening at a small, quiet restaurant in the city. When she arrived, she was surprised to see Dr. Alex already there, sitting at a corner table. He smiled warmly when he saw her and motioned for her to sit. The restaurant was intimate, with dim lighting and soft jazz music playing in the background. It was a far cry from the sterile, professional atmosphere of the clinic. I'm glad you could make it, Alex said, his voice as calm and smooth as ever. He wasn't dressed in a suit this time, just a simple shirt and jacket, yet he still looked effortlessly put together. I wanted to get to know you better, Lena, he continued. I think we got off on the wrong foot during our first appointment. I wasn't entirely honest with you, and I think it's time you knew the truth. Lena's heart skipped a beat. What did he mean? Was he really about to tell her something important, something that would change everything? She sat down, her curiosity piqued, but her nerves on edge. This wasn't just a doctor-patient conversation anymore. It was something else entirely. As the conversation unfolded, Dr. Alex revealed something she never expected. He wasn't just a doctor. He was also the CEO of a large healthcare corporation, a company that had funded many of the clinics and hospitals around the city. He had spent years building his empire, but had chosen to work as a doctor in order to stay grounded and understand the real needs of people. Lena's mind raced. She had never suspected that Alex was anything more than just a doctor. The way he carried himself, the way he seemed different from anyone else she had met. Now it all made sense. But what did this mean for their relationship? Could she trust him, knowing he had kept such an important part of himself hidden from her? And more importantly, why had he chosen to reveal this now? As the evening progressed, Lena found herself torn between the growing admiration she felt for him and the deep sense of betrayal that lingered in her heart. She wanted to believe that he had good intentions, but the truth was hard to ignore. He wasn't just a doctor. He was a millionaire, and now she had to figure out what that meant for her and for their budding relationship. I never expected dinner to turn into this kind of revelation. As Alex sat across from me at that small restaurant, with the soft jazz music playing in the background, my mind was racing. He had just told me that he wasn't just a doctor. He was the CEO of a major healthcare corporation. At first, it was hard to process. The man who had examined me, who had seemed so grounded and sincere, was a millionaire, and not just any millionaire, but the head of a sprawling empire. I couldn't help but wonder why he had kept this part of his life hidden from me. Was it to test me? Was it all a game to him? I looked at him, trying to make sense of everything. I understand this is a lot to take in, Alex said, breaking the silence that had settled between us. I didn't want to reveal this part of my life so soon, but I feel like it's important for you to know who I really am. I didn't become a doctor to impress anyone, Lena. I did it because I care. I wanted to connect with people, understand them, and be close to the work that means the most to me. His words were sincere, but the shock of his revelation left me speechless. It felt as if everything I thought I knew about him had been a lie. But why keep it a secret? I finally asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Why not tell me the truth from the beginning? Alex sighed, his eyes softening as he leaned forward. Because I didn't want you to see me as the CEO. I didn't want you to look at me and think I was just another rich guy trying to buy people's attention. I wanted you to see me for who I am. A doctor, someone who genuinely cares about people, who listens, who understands what it's like to be in your shoes. I couldn't deny that. His words had a certain warmth to them. The way he spoke, so genuinely, made me want to believe him. But I couldn't shake the feeling of betrayal that lingered in the back of my mind. You should have told me, I said, the words slipping out before I could stop them. You should have been honest with me from the start. I would have respected you more for that. Alex looked down at the table, his face clouded with regret. I'm sorry, Lena. I know I should have, but I was afraid. I've had people in my life who only wanted to be around me for what I could offer them. I didn't want you to be one of those people. I didn't want to test you, but I guess in some ways, I did. I could feel the weight of his confession, but I also knew I couldn't ignore how much it had shaken me. I had come to trust him, to feel comfortable with him, and now it felt like the foundation of that trust had crumbled. Still, part of me wanted to give him the benefit of the doubt. So what does this mean for us? I asked, my voice trembling. What do we do now? Alex reached across the table, gently taking my hand in his. It means that I want to be real with you, Lena. I'm not just the doctor you saw last week. I'm not just the CEO you think I am. I'm someone who wants to get to know you, who wants to be with you for who you are, not what you think of me. His words were comforting, but the confusion in my mind was overwhelming. Was I supposed to just forget everything I had learned about him? Was it really possible for us to start over, knowing the truth? I need time to process this, I said, pulling my hand away. I need to think about what this means for me, for us. Alex nodded, his expression softening. I understand, Lena. I'll give you all the time you need. Just know that I'm here, and I want to make things right. I want to build something real with you. The rest of the dinner passed in a blur, with silence hanging between us as I tried to make sense of what Alex had told me. I had come here expecting to get to know the man behind the doctor's coat, but instead, I found out that he was more than I could have imagined. I didn't know if I could fully trust him again, but I also couldn't deny the chemistry we had shared. Could we move past this? Could I really be with someone who had kept such a big secret from me? As we left the restaurant, Alex insisted on walking me to my car. We stood there for a moment, the night air cool against my skin. Lena, he said softly, his hand brushing against mine. I know this is a lot, but I promise you, I'm not going anywhere. I want to be a part of your life, if you'll let me. I didn't know what to say. My emotions were a tangled mess, and I was still processing everything he had said. But for the first time in a long time, I felt uncertain about what the future held. As I drove home that night, the streets blurred by the headlights, I couldn't shake the feeling that things had changed forever. I didn't know if I could let go of the mistrust I felt, but I also knew that I couldn't ignore the connection we shared. The next day, I found myself thinking about Alex more than I cared to admit. What was I supposed to do now? I wasn't sure, but I knew that I couldn't keep running away from the truth. I had to face it, even if it meant facing the consequences of his lies. And as for Alex, I wasn't sure what the future held for us. But one thing was clear, things would never be the same again. I had spent the entire night replaying every moment of my dinner with Alex in my mind. The truth had hit me hard, and I wasn't sure where I stood anymore. Could I trust him again? Could I move past the shock of his revelation and accept the man he claimed to be, or would I always wonder if he was hiding something else? The next morning, I woke up feeling like I was still trapped in a haze, unsure of what to do. I had promised Alex I would take my time, but the more I thought about it, the more I realized that I needed answers. I couldn't keep living in this state of uncertainty. As I prepared for another day, my phone buzzed with a text from him. Hi, Lena. I know you're still processing everything, but I want you to know I'm here whenever you're ready to talk. Don't feel rushed, just take your time. I'll be waiting. It was the kindness in his words that caught me off guard. I hadn't expected him to be so patient with me. After everything, I thought he might be upset or frustrated, but instead, he was giving me the space I needed. It felt like he was trying to prove that he wasn't just some rich guy who would abandon me when things got tough. It made me feel guilty, and at the same time, It made me wonder if maybe he really did care. I decided to take a walk to clear my mind. The weather was calm, a gentle breeze sweeping through the streets, and the sun cast long shadows on the pavement. As I walked, I thought about all the things Alex had told me. He wasn't just a doctor. He was a powerful CEO, someone who had the world at his feet. And yet, here he was, trying to convince me that he was just a man who wanted to connect with me on a personal level. How could someone so successful, so polished, truly want to build something real with me? I was a simple woman with a modest job, and the more I thought about it, the more I felt out of my depth. I had never been part of his world, and I wasn't sure if I ever would be. As I reached the park, I sat down on a bench, feeling the weight of everything pressing down on me. I took a deep breath, trying to steady my thoughts. But just as I was about to get up and leave, my phone buzzed again. This time, it was a call from Alex. I hesitated for a moment before answering. "Hey, Lena." His voice came through the phone, warm and familiar. "I know you're probably busy, but I wanted to invite you to something. It's a small event this weekend, just some friends of mine getting together. It's informal, and I'd really like for you to come. No pressure, but I think it would be a good opportunity for us to talk and for you to see a little more of my life, the real side of it." I paused, unsure of what to say. An event? With his friends? It felt like a big step, a moment where I would have to face everything I was trying to avoid. But something in his voice made me feel like I couldn't turn him down. "I don't know, Alex," I said, the uncertainty creeping back into my voice. "I'm still trying to figure things out. I'm not sure I'm ready to step into that world yet." "I understand," he said, his voice softening. "But just think about it. No pressure at all. It's just a chance for us to spend time together, away from the office. And I promise, it's nothing fancy. Just a few people, some good food, and a chance to relax." After a moment of hesitation, I agreed. "Okay, I'll come. But only for a little while." The rest of the week felt like a blur. I couldn't stop thinking about the event. What would it be like? What if I wasn't comfortable? What if I didn't fit in with his friends? And most importantly, what if I was making a mistake by trusting him again? On the day of the event, I spent extra time getting ready. I chose a simple but elegant dress, something that would make me feel confident without overdoing it. When I arrived at the venue, a beautiful private estate on the outskirts of the city, I felt a knot form in my stomach. The house was stunning, large, with a manicured lawn and a view of the city skyline. I could already hear the sounds of laughter and chatter coming from inside. I stood at the entrance for a moment, feeling like I didn't belong. I wasn't used to this kind of lifestyle. But just as I was about to turn and leave, the door opened, and there was Alex, smiling warmly at me. "I'm so glad you made it," he said, his smile reassuring. "Come on in. Let me introduce you to everyone." As he led me inside, I was struck by how natural he seemed in this world. His friends were all laughing, mingling, and chatting effortlessly. It was clear they were used to this kind of setting, but Alex's presence grounded the room. He introduced me to a few people, and they were all kind, making me feel welcome despite my nerves. As the evening wore on, I found myself relaxing a little. It wasn't so bad. Alex was right. It wasn't about showing off wealth or status. It was about connecting, spending time with people who genuinely cared. But even as I enjoyed myself, I couldn't ignore the feeling that lingered in the back of my mind. Was this really where I belonged? Could I ever be a part of this world? And more importantly, could I ever trust Alex completely? As the night came to a close, Alex walked me out to my car. "I'm glad you came," he said. "I know it wasn't easy, but I hope you saw that I'm not just a CEO. I'm a person who wants to get to know you, to share my life with you, if you'll let me." I smiled softly, but the uncertainty remained. I wasn't sure where this journey was taking me, but for the first time in a long time, I felt like I was on the edge of something important. And maybe, just maybe, I could give Alex the chance he was asking for. I had started to let my guard down. The event had been a turning point, but the questions that had been swirling in my mind since I learned about Alex's true identity were still there, lingering in the background. I had been looking for answers, but now, I found myself wondering if I was ready for those answers. Was I truly ready to accept him for who he was? Or was I still holding on to the idea of him as just my doctor? I had spent the last few days reflecting on the decision I had made, agreeing to meet him outside of the office and step into his world, a world that felt so foreign to me. But after the event, I felt the same uncertainty creeping in again. I couldn't ignore it anymore. I had to make sense of this, once and for all. I decided to reach out to Alex. The moment I picked up the phone, my heart raced. I had spent so much time trying to avoid this conversation, and now I was initiating it. As the call rang, I wondered if he was expecting this. "Hello, Lena." His voice was warm, familiar, but there was an underlying tension that I could sense. "Hi, Alex," I said, taking a deep breath. "Can we talk?" There was a pause on the other end before he responded. "Of course, whenever you're ready." We decided to meet at a cafe later that afternoon, somewhere quiet where we could talk without distractions. As I sat down at the table, I felt a knot in my stomach. I had no idea what to expect from this conversation. When Alex arrived, he smiled, but it didn't quite reach his eyes. He seemed just as nervous as I felt. "Hey," he said, sitting across from me. "Thanks for meeting me." I nodded, my fingers fidgeting with the edge of my coffee cup. I needed to talk, too. I've been thinking a lot about everything, and I'm still trying to figure it out. "I understand," Alex said, his gaze softening. "I don't want to rush you into anything, Lena. I just want you to know that I'm here, no matter what you decide." His words were comforting, but they also felt like a reminder of how much was at stake. I had to be honest with myself and with him. "I've been confused," I said, my voice trembling slightly. "I don't know if I can fully accept everything about you. The doctor part, I get. But the CEO part, the part where you've been hiding this big part of yourself, it's hard for me to wrap my head around." "I understand why it's hard," Alex replied quietly. "I'm sorry for keeping that part of my life from you. I didn't want you to think of me differently. But the truth is, I didn't want to be seen as just a millionaire. I wanted you to see me as someone who cares, who listens, who wants to be there for you, no matter what." I looked at him, really looked at him, and for the first time, I could see the vulnerability in his eyes. He wasn't just trying to win me over with charm and wealth. He was genuinely trying to prove to me that he wasn't the man I had imagined him to be, someone who was only interested in what I could offer him. "But why didn't you trust me enough to tell me?" I asked, the question hanging between us. Alex's expression faltered for a moment, and then he took a deep breath. "I was afraid," he said softly, "afraid of losing you. I didn't know if you would see me the same way if you knew the truth. But the longer I kept it from you, the harder it became. And now here we are." I could see the sincerity in his face. For all the doubts I had, there was something in his eyes that made me want to believe him. Maybe I had been too quick to judge. Maybe I had let my own insecurities and fears cloud my judgment. I wanted to be angry. I wanted to walk away and not look back, but something stopped me. Maybe it was the way he spoke, or maybe it was the way he had treated me all along. Either way, I knew I couldn't let this be the end. "I don't know what I'm doing, Alex," I said quietly. "I've never been in a situation like this before. I don't know how to navigate this relationship. You're not just a doctor. You're this whole other person, and I don't know if I'm ready for that." Alex nodded, his expression understanding. "I get it, Lena. I don't expect you to have all the answers right now, but I want you to know that I'm not going anywhere. I care about you, and I want to make this work, whatever it takes." His words hit me harder than I expected. I could feel the sincerity in them, and I could feel my own walls starting to crumble. Maybe I wasn't ready to completely trust him, but I knew I wasn't ready to give up on what we had either. "I'm not saying I'm ready to dive in completely," I said, my voice gaining a little more confidence. "But I'm willing to try. I'm willing to see where this can go, as long as we're being honest with each other from here on out." Alex smiled, the first real smile I had seen since our dinner. "That's all I'm asking for, Lena. Just a chance." We spent the next few hours talking, and for the first time in a long time, I felt a sense of clarity. I wasn't sure where this journey would take us, but I knew one thing for sure. I was ready to take the next step. As I left the cafe that afternoon, I felt a sense of hope for the first time in weeks. Maybe things wouldn't be easy, and maybe I still had a lot of doubts to work through, but for the first time, I felt like I wasn't alone in this. I had Alex by my side, and that was a start. I had agreed to take the next step, but now that I was in it, the uncertainty lingered. Every time I thought about Alex and the life he was offering, my mind became a tangle of emotions. On the one hand, I appreciated his honesty and his willingness to let me take things at my own pace. On the other hand, I couldn't escape the fact that I was stepping into a world that felt so unfamiliar to me. The life he led, full of wealth, power, and high society, seemed light years away from my own reality. The more time I spent with Alex, the more I realized just how different our worlds were. We went to dinner one evening, and it was clear that he had the ability to walk into any room and command attention. People knew him. They respected him. And I was just there, feeling like I didn't belong. As we sat at a beautiful restaurant overlooking the city skyline, I felt the weight of his world pressing down on me. "Lena, I know this is all a lot," Alex said, breaking the silence between us. "But I'm not asking you to change who you are. I just want you to be with me in this. I want us to share this life together as equals. You don't have to feel like you're stepping into something you can't handle." His words were comforting, but they didn't erase the doubts I had. I was beginning to wonder if I could ever be comfortable in his world, or if I was simply too out of place. But I also knew that I couldn't let my insecurities dictate my decisions. I had to decide what was best for me. "I'm not sure, Alex," I replied honestly. "I don't want to be someone I'm not. I've worked hard to be where I am, and I've built my life from the ground up. I don't want to lose myself in this, in you." Alex reached across the table and took my hand in his. "You're not going to lose yourself, Lena. I'm not asking you to change. All I'm asking is that you give us a chance. I want you to see who I really am. Not just the CEO, not just the doctor. I want you to see me as a person. And I want to see you for who you truly are, too." His sincerity hit me in a way I hadn't expected. I realized then that he wasn't just trying to sweep me off my feet with his wealth or status. He was offering me something deeper, something real. But even as I began to consider his words, I couldn't shake the fear that had been building inside me. What if I wasn't enough for him? What if I couldn't fit into the life he had so easily built for himself? That night, I went home feeling conflicted. I had spent so much of my life building walls around myself, afraid to let anyone in. And now, here was Alex, asking me to trust him, to take a leap of faith into a life that felt so foreign to me. The next few days passed in a blur. I went through my daily routine, trying to keep my mind off of the decision I had to make. But every time I saw Alex, every time we spoke, the same question gnawed at me. Could I truly trust him? Could I embrace this relationship, despite the world that came with it? And then, one afternoon, as I was sitting in a cafe alone, I saw Alex walk in. He smiled when he saw me, and without a word, he sat down beside me. "I've been thinking," he said, his voice calm, almost hesitant. "I know you've been struggling with this, and I don't want to push you. But I also don't want you to feel like you're alone in this. Whatever you decide, I'm here. But if you choose me, I want you to know that I'll support you in every way possible." His words were simple, but they struck me deeply. I realized in that moment that this wasn't just about me fitting into his world. It was about us figuring out how to make this work together on our own terms. "I'm scared, Alex," I admitted, my voice barely above a whisper. "Scared that I won't be enough for you. Scared that I'll lose myself in this life you've built." Alex's eyes softened, and he took my hand in his once more. "You won't lose yourself, Lena. I promise you. We'll make our own life. It doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be real." I looked at him, really looked at him, and for the first time, I felt like I could see through the layers of success and wealth. He wasn't just a CEO. He wasn't just a doctor. He was a man who was willing to fight for this relationship, for me. And in that moment, I realized that I was willing to fight for it, too. The uncertainty was still there, but it didn't feel as suffocating. I could see a future with Alex, not as a person who was trying to fit into his world, but as someone who could create a new world with him. We didn't have to be the same. We didn't have to have all the answers. We just had to be willing to take that first step, together. "Okay," I said softly, squeezing his hand. "I'm willing to try. I'm willing to see where this can go." A smile spread across Alex's face, and for the first time in a long while, I felt the weight of my own fears start to lift. This wasn't going to be easy, and I still had a lot to figure out, but I was ready to face it. With Alex by my side, I felt like anything was possible. I had made the decision to try, to see where this relationship could go, and the more I spent time with Alex, the more I realized that this wasn't going to be as difficult as I had imagined. Over the next few weeks, things between us started to feel more natural. We saw each other regularly, and with each meeting, the walls I had built around myself began to crumble. I wasn't just seeing him as the CEO or the doctor anymore. I was seeing Alex for who he truly was, a man with depth, with vulnerabilities, and with a sincerity that I couldn't ignore. He had proven to me that he wasn't just interested in the superficial aspects of life. He cared about people. He cared about me. But even as I allowed myself to relax into this new dynamic, I couldn't fully escape the shadow of my own doubts. I had been so independent for so long, and now, with Alex by my side, I had to figure out how to let someone in without losing myself in the process. It wasn't easy. There were times when I would catch myself questioning if I was making the right decision, if I was truly ready for this life with him, or if I was simply fooling myself into thinking I could fit into a world that was so different from mine. Alex, on the other hand, seemed at ease with everything. He was confident, not just in his career, but in the relationship we were building. One evening, as we sat on the rooftop of his apartment, watching the city lights flicker below us, he turned to me with a smile. "You know," he said, "I've been thinking. I'm glad you gave me a chance, Lena. I know it wasn't easy for you, and I know it's still a work in progress, but I really believe we're building something good here." I smiled back, feeling a warmth spread through me at his words. "I'm glad too," I replied, "but I can't promise that it's going to be easy. I still have a lot of things to figure out." "I know," he said softly, his eyes never leaving mine. "And I'm not expecting perfection. I just want you to know that I'm here for the long haul." His sincerity hit me hard. It was exactly what I needed to hear. But despite how much I wanted to believe him, there was still a part of me that couldn't let go of my fears. I had been hurt before, and I wasn't sure if I was ready to open myself up fully again. But at that moment, something shifted inside me. I realized that I couldn't keep living in fear, holding back from something that could be great. I had to trust Alex. I had to trust myself. Over the following weeks, we continued to grow closer. We shared more about our lives, our hopes, and our dreams. Alex was open about his past, his struggles with balancing his work and personal life, and the toll it had taken on him over the years. In turn, I shared my own fears and insecurities, things I had kept buried for so long. It wasn't always easy, but with each conversation, I felt us becoming more connected. One night, after a long day at work, I came over to Alex's apartment, tired but eager to see him. He greeted me with a warm smile and a hug, and we spent the evening cooking dinner together. As we sat down to eat, I felt a sense of peace settle over me. This was it. This was the kind of life I wanted. I didn't need the luxury or the fame. I didn't need to be part of his world of high society or business meetings. I just wanted to be with him, to build a life together. That night, as we sat on the couch, Alex turned to me with a serious expression on his face. "Lena," he began, "I know we've been taking things slow, and I respect that. But I need to tell you something." My heart skipped a beat. Was he about to tell me he wasn't ready for this? Was he going to pull away? I took a deep breath, trying to steady my nerves. "What is it, Alex?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. He took my hand in his and squeezed it gently. "I want to be with you. I want to be with you in every way, not just as a part of my life, but as my equal. I want us to build a future together, Lena. I'm not asking you to rush into anything, but I want you to know that I'm serious about this. About us." My heart soared at his words, but at the same time, the weight of the moment wasn't lost on me. This was a big step, one that I had been hesitant to take for so long. But now, as I looked at him, I realized that I was ready. I was ready to trust him, to trust us. "I want that too, Alex," I said softly, my voice shaking slightly. "I don't know what the future holds, but I know that I want you in it. I want to build a life with you, even if it's not perfect." Alex smiled, the kind of smile that made my heart skip a beat. That's all I need to hear. As we sat there, our hands intertwined, I realized that the journey we had started was just the beginning. There would be challenges ahead. There would be moments of doubt, but we were in this together. And for the first time in a long time, I felt like I was exactly where I needed to be. I had decided, at last, to let go of my fears and truly embrace the life Alex and I were starting to build together. There was no more holding back, no more pretending that I didn't belong in his world. But even as I made this decision, I knew that we would face obstacles. The difference between our worlds was still there, looming like an unspoken truth, but I was ready to face it. It had been a few weeks since our conversation, and things between us had continued to grow stronger. We spent more time together, traveling, enjoying small moments that felt big in the way only real connections can. Every time we were together, I felt the walls I had spent years building around myself slowly come down. But of course, it wasn't always easy. I was learning to balance my own independence with the reality of sharing my life with someone else. I hadn't realized how much of my identity had been tied to my self-sufficiency until Alex came into my life. Now, There were moments where I felt like I was being pulled in two different directions. The independent woman I had always been, and the partner who was learning to rely on someone else. It wasn't that I didn't want to rely on Alex. It was more that I didn't want to lose myself in him. I had seen it happen too many times, where people changed everything about themselves for the sake of a relationship. I wasn't about to let that happen. But every time I doubted, Alex was there, steady and unwavering. He had made it clear from the start that he wasn't looking for someone to complete him. He was looking for someone to stand beside him. And it was becoming more and more apparent that he meant what he said. One evening, after a long week, Alex suggested we take a weekend getaway. Let's get away for a couple of days, he said. Somewhere peaceful. Just the two of us. No work, no distractions, just time to relax and enjoy each other's company. I agreed, excited by the idea of having some time to ourselves. We went to a cabin in the mountains, away from the noise of the city. The quiet was refreshing. It was just what we both needed. The first day was filled with hiking and cooking dinner together, and by nightfall, we sat on the porch with a bottle of wine, watching the stars. The air was crisp, and for the first time in a long time, I felt completely at peace. It was a moment of clarity, of understanding just how much Alex meant to me. As we sat there, the weight of the conversation we had a few weeks ago seemed to lift. "You're quiet tonight," Alex said, breaking the silence. I smiled and looked at him. "Just thinking," I replied. "About us." He took my hand, squeezing it gently. "What are you thinking?" he asked, his voice soft and filled with curiosity. I hesitated for a moment before speaking. "I think I'm finally starting to feel like I belong in this. In your life. I was so afraid of losing myself before, but now, I realize that being with you doesn't mean I have to change who I am." Alex's eyes softened, and he smiled at me. "Lena, you don't have to change for me. I've always admired your strength, your independence. That's one of the things that drew me to you in the first place." His words reassured me, and I felt the knot in my stomach loosen. We spent the rest of the evening talking, laughing, and simply being present in the moment. It felt like we had stepped away from the complexities of our lives, if only for a little while, and allowed ourselves to just enjoy each other's company. The next morning, as we woke up to the soft light of the sunrise, I knew that things were changing. In a good way. I was changing, but in a way that felt right. It wasn't about becoming someone else. It was about allowing myself to embrace the love that Alex had been offering me all along. As we packed up to leave, I felt a renewed sense of clarity. I wasn't just stepping into his world. I was creating a new world with him, one where we both could bring our strengths, our vulnerabilities, and our dreams. And for the first time in a long time, I felt ready for that. The weekend getaway had done more than just give us a break. It had allowed us to reconnect in a way that was deep and meaningful. As we drove back to the city, I realized that I was no longer afraid of the unknown. I had Alex by my side, and together, we could face whatever came our way. There would still be challenges ahead, of course. We weren't perfect, and life wouldn't always be easy. But I was no longer afraid of the future. Because the truth was, I had never felt more sure about something in my life. I was ready for whatever was next, for whatever we would build together. I had thought the hardest part of this journey was behind me, but as I spent more time with Alex, I began to realize that the real test had only just begun. We had reached a comfortable place together, but the complexities of blending our lives were starting to show. I had learned so much about Alex, about his world, and about myself, but now it was time to face the reality of what it meant to truly build something together. The more I allowed myself to open up to him, the more I felt like I was stepping out of my comfort zone. I had always prided myself on being self-sufficient, on handling things on my own. But now, as I stood by Alex's side, I had to confront the fear that came with relying on someone else. It wasn't just about letting Alex into my world. It was about letting myself into his world, and in doing so, letting go of the control I had always clung to. One evening, Alex and I were having dinner at his apartment, a quiet evening with just the two of us. As we sat at the table, eating and talking about our days, the conversation shifted to something more serious. "Lena," Alex began, his voice serious. "There's something I've been meaning to tell you. Something that I've been avoiding." My heart skipped a beat. I had always trusted him, but the fact that he had something important to share made me nervous. "What is it?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. Alex took a deep breath, looking at me intently. "I've been offered a promotion," he said slowly. It's a big step in my career, something I've been working toward for a long time. But it also means I'll have to travel more, take on more responsibility. It's a huge commitment. I felt a lump form in my throat. I knew how important his work was to him, but I also knew that this would change everything. How do you feel about it? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. I'm torn, he admitted. It's a great opportunity, but I don't want it to come between us. I've been thinking about how much time I'll be away, how much I'll miss, and I don't want to lose what we've built. The weight of his words settled heavily between us. This was a turning point, and I knew it would require us to make some difficult decisions. I wasn't sure how I would handle it if he had to be away more often. Alex, I said carefully, I want you to do what's best for you. You've worked so hard to get where you are, and I don't want to hold you back. But I also need to think about what this means for us. I could see the relief in his eyes, but I also saw the concern. He was worried, just as I was, about how this would impact our relationship. I don't want you to feel like I'm asking you to choose between your career and me, he said softly. But I need you to be honest with me. Can we handle this? Can we make this work? I took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the decision I had to make. I don't know, I said honestly. But I want to try. I want to make this work. We've come this far, and I believe in us. But we're going to need to communicate, to figure out how to balance everything. Alex smiled, the tension in his shoulders easing. I'm glad you feel that way. I want to make this work too. We'll figure it out, one step at a time. That conversation marked a new chapter in our relationship. It wasn't just about us anymore. It was about the life we were building together and the compromises we would need to make to keep it strong. Over the next few weeks, we worked through the logistics. Alex's new role meant he would be traveling more, but it also gave him the flexibility to be more present when he was home. We talked about how we could stay connected, how we could support each other through the changes. It wasn't always easy. There were days when I felt the distance between us, both physically and emotionally. But we found ways to make it work. We made time for each other, whether it was a quick phone call in the middle of his business trip or a weekend getaway whenever he was back in town. And even though things were changing, I never felt like I was losing him. One evening, after Alex returned from another trip, we decided to go for a walk in the park near his apartment. The sun was setting, casting a golden glow over everything. As we walked hand in hand, I realized just how far we had come. We had been through so much, but we were still here, still together. I'm proud of us, I said, looking up at him. We're making it work. Alex smiled and pulled me closer. We're stronger than we realize, he said. And we'll continue to grow, together. In that moment, I knew that no matter what the future held, we would face it as a team. The road ahead wouldn't always be smooth, but I had Alex by my side, and that was all that mattered. We had built something real, something worth fighting for, and I was ready to continue building that life with him, one step at a time. I had thought that the challenges of balancing Alex's career with our relationship would be the hardest part, but as life continued to unfold, new obstacles began to emerge, ones I wasn't expecting. After several months of adjusting to his travel schedule, I had begun to settle into a rhythm. We had our ups and downs, but we were navigating them together, and that felt like progress. However, what I hadn't anticipated was how much the world we were building would begin to affect those around us. One evening, as Alex and I were having dinner at his apartment, we received a call from his business partner, Marcus. Alex's expression shifted when he answered, and I immediately sensed that something was wrong. He listened carefully for a moment before hanging up and turning to me with a troubled look on his face. What's going on? I asked, my heart sinking. Marcus just informed me that there's some tension between the board members about my promotion, Alex said, his voice tight. They're questioning whether I'm the right person to take on more responsibility, and honestly, it's starting to affect my work. There's a lot of pressure on me right now. I could see the weight of his words. Alex had worked so hard to get to this point, and now, it seemed like everything was at risk. I reached across the table, taking his hand in mine. We'll get through this, I said, trying to offer him some comfort. You've earned this position. Don't let them shake your confidence. He nodded, but the doubt in his eyes was evident. It was clear that the situation was affecting him more than he let on. I don't know, Lena, he said softly. I'm starting to wonder if I'm in over my head. I never expected this kind of pushback. I just want to do good work and take care of the people who count on me. I squeezed his hand tighter. You're more than capable, Alex. This isn't about proving yourself to them. It's about you staying true to what you believe in. But as much as I wanted to reassure him, I knew that this was more complicated than just words. Alex had always been the kind of person who prided himself on being in control, on being the one others turned to. Now, he was facing a situation where he couldn't control the outcome. Over the next few weeks, things only seemed to escalate. Alex spent more time at work, dealing with the mounting pressure from the board, and the strain was beginning to show. He became more distant, his mind always occupied with the issues at hand. I tried to be supportive, but it was hard not to feel the distance growing between us. One evening, when Alex returned home later than usual, I could see the exhaustion in his eyes. "How was your day?" I asked, trying to keep my voice light. He sank onto the couch, rubbing his temples. "It was long," he said, letting out a deep sigh. "There's so much going on. I just don't know how to fix it all." "You don't have to fix everything, Alex," I said gently. "You can't control what other people do or say. You just need to focus on what you can do." He looked at me, his eyes filled with frustration. "I'm trying, Lena. I really am. But no matter what I do, it feels like it's never enough. And I don't know how much longer I can keep going like this." The vulnerability in his voice caught me off guard. Alex had always been so strong, so sure of himself, that hearing him doubt himself felt like a punch to the gut. I moved closer to him, putting my hand on his shoulder. "You don't have to do it alone, you know," I said softly. "I'm here for you. Whatever happens, we'll get through it together." Alex looked at me, his eyes searching mine as if trying to gauge whether I truly understood what he was going through. "I don't want to drag you into all of this," he said quietly. "I don't want you to feel like you have to bear this burden with me. I want to be here," I said firmly. "I'm not going anywhere. We're in this together." He looked at me for a long moment, and then, for the first time in weeks, I saw a faint smile play at the corner of his lips. "Thank you, Lena," he said softly. "I don't know what I'd do without you." That was the moment I realized that no matter what the future held, we had built something that was strong enough to withstand the pressure. It wasn't about having all the answers or fixing everything. It was about standing by each other when things were tough. And at that moment, I knew that we would face whatever came our way, side by side. The next few weeks were difficult, but together, Alex and I worked through the challenges. His promotion was still up in the air, but he remained determined to prove himself, not just to the board, but to himself. And I was there, supporting him every step of the way. Slowly but surely, the tension began to ease. Alex's hard work started to pay off, and the board members began to see the value he brought to the table. The pressure was still there, but it no longer felt overwhelming. It was a reminder that, no matter how hard life gets, we always had each other. And for the first time in a long time, I truly felt that we were building a future together, one that was worth fighting for. I had never expected the pressure of Alex's career to feel so overwhelming. But after months of navigating the challenges of his new promotion, it became clear that the tension was far from over. Alex had finally received the recognition he deserved from the board, and with it came more responsibility and higher expectations. He had fought tooth and nail to prove himself, and now it was paying off, but the cost was showing in other areas of his life. I could see the exhaustion in his eyes even when he smiled, and the late nights and endless meetings were taking a toll on him. Despite everything he had achieved, he still seemed to struggle with the idea of balancing his career and our relationship. We had come so far, but I couldn't ignore the fact that something was still off between us. It wasn't that we were fighting or drifting apart, but the weight of his career was creating a distance that I wasn't sure how to bridge. I tried to be understanding. I told myself that this was just a phase, that things would settle down eventually. But the uncertainty began to creep in. We hadn't had a weekend getaway in months, and the small, quiet moments we had shared in the past were becoming increasingly rare. One evening, after another late night at the office, Alex came home, and we sat down for dinner. It was supposed to be a quiet night, just the two of us, but I could see the frustration building in him. "Lena, I don't know how much longer I can keep doing this," Alex said, his voice tinged with exhaustion. "The board is pushing me harder than ever, and I feel like I'm constantly on edge. I know you're patient with me, but I'm starting to feel like I'm failing in every part of my life." His words hit me harder than I expected. I had always seen Alex as strong, confident, and in control, but now, I could see how much the weight of his responsibilities was breaking him down. I reached across the table and placed my hand on his. "You're not failing, Alex," I said softly. You're doing everything you can, but you don't have to do it alone. He looked at me, his tired eyes searching mine. I don't want to drag you down with all of this, Lena. I don't want you to feel like you're just supporting me through all this chaos. You deserve more than this. I could feel the intensity of his words, and I knew he was speaking from a place of genuine concern for me. But the truth was, I didn't want more than this. I didn't need grand gestures or perfect moments. I just needed him. Alex, we're in this together, I said, squeezing his hand. You don't have to carry this burden on your own. I'm here, and I'm not going anywhere. I want to be with you, in the highs and the lows. This isn't about perfection. It's about us, figuring it out together. Alex sighed, his shoulders sagging as if a weight had been lifted, but there was still a lingering doubt in his eyes. I just don't want to let you down, he whispered. I shook my head. You're not letting me down. I've always admired your drive, your passion for your work. But you can't forget about yourself, Alex. You deserve to find a balance, and we need to work together to make that happen. For the first time in weeks, I saw a glimmer of hope in his eyes. You're right, he said softly. I've been so focused on my career that I forgot to take care of myself, and I've been neglecting what really matters. But I'm willing to make changes, for us. That moment felt like a turning point. I realized that we were no longer in the same place we had been when we first started this journey together. We had grown, individually and as a couple, but the road ahead wasn't going to be without its struggles. We still had so much to figure out, and I knew it wouldn't always be easy. But for the first time in a long while, I felt a sense of certainty. I wasn't afraid anymore. We had built something real, something worth fighting for. And no matter what happened, I knew that we would face it together. The following weeks were a mix of challenges and breakthroughs. Alex's schedule was still demanding, but we found ways to carve out time for each other. We took short weekend trips to nearby towns, rediscovered our favorite restaurants, and spent evenings talking about everything and nothing. As much as his career continued to push him, Alex made a conscious effort to be present with me. It wasn't perfect, but it was progress. We were both learning to prioritize the relationship that mattered most to us. One evening, as we sat on the couch together after a long day, Alex turned to me with a serious expression. Lena, I've been thinking a lot about what you said, he began. I want to make sure that I'm always there for you. Not just when things are easy, but when things get tough too. I don't want you to feel like you're alone in this. My heart swelled at his words. You don't have to worry about that, I said. I'm not going anywhere. We're in this together, remember? Alex smiled, the first real smile I had seen in weeks. Together, he echoed, as if the word itself held all the meaning we needed. And for the first time, I truly believed that we could face anything, as long as we were facing it together. I had thought that once Alex and I reached a place of understanding, things would settle into an easy rhythm. But life had other plans. While we had come so far, and I felt like we had reached a deep level of trust and partnership, the reality of our lives kept shifting in ways I hadn't expected. Alex's career was booming, but with that success came even more demands, and I found myself, once again, grappling with the balance of his world and mine. We had made it through the challenges of his promotion, his increased travel, and the strain of building a life together while keeping his professional world intact. But now, there were new challenges ahead, ones that neither of us could have predicted. One evening, after another long week, Alex and I were sitting at home, trying to enjoy a rare night off. It had been months since we had an evening that didn't revolve around his work schedule or my responsibilities. We had both been working hard to keep things on track, but something had been off lately, and it wasn't hard to see it now. Lena, I need to talk to you, Alex said, his voice serious. I looked up from the book I had been reading, my heart racing. We had been so good at communicating, so good at facing the hard conversations together. But this tone in his voice made me nervous. What's going on? I asked, setting the book aside, and giving him my full attention. There's something happening at work, Alex began, rubbing his hands together in frustration. I'm being pushed into a new direction, one that I didn't see coming. The board wants me to take on a new project, something big. They want me to oversee a new division of the company, and it's going to mean even more time away from you, even more stress on me. I don't know how to make it all work. My stomach tightened as I listened. Alex's success had always been something I admired, but the more he was asked to do, the more it felt like his time and energy were slipping away from us. I couldn't ignore the way he was looking at me, the uncertainty in his eyes. "Alex," I said softly, "this is a huge step, but I'm not sure how we're going to handle it if this means even more time apart." He sighed, running a hand through his hair. "I don't want to lose you, Lena. I can't keep putting all my energy into this career and neglecting what matters most to me." I reached for his hand, trying to calm him. "We've been through a lot, and we've made it work, but I need to know that we're still on the same page. I'm here for you, but I need to know how you see this working. Because if this takes even more of you away from us, I'm not sure how much longer I can handle it." Alex looked at me, his face filled with genuine concern. "I've always been so focused on my career, on proving myself. But now, I'm realizing that the things I'm working for don't matter if I lose the people I love along the way. You're more important to me than any project, any promotion. But I don't know how to make that balance work." It was the honesty in his words that hit me hardest. He was admitting, finally, that no matter how successful he became, he knew something was missing, something that wasn't in his career, but in his relationship with me. I leaned forward, taking his hand in mine, my heart aching. "We don't have to figure everything out tonight, but we do need to make sure we're being honest with each other about what we need. I can't be the person who just stands by and watches you give everything to your work while I'm left with nothing. I need to be with you, Alex. I need you to be with me, too." Alex nodded, the weight of my words settling in. "I hear you, Lena. I do. And I'm willing to make changes. I don't want to lose you, and I don't want to sacrifice everything we've worked for." The conversation didn't end there. It was the beginning of a long process of figuring out what it meant for us to share our lives without compromising on the things that mattered most. Over the next few weeks, we had more talks, some hard, some filled with hope. Alex made the decision to turn down the project that would have taken him away even more, instead choosing to focus on the areas of his job that allowed him more flexibility. It wasn't an easy decision for him, but it was the right one. We both knew that our relationship could only thrive if we made time for each other, if we kept our connection strong amidst the chaos of life. One evening, as we sat on the balcony of his apartment, watching the city lights flicker below, I felt a sense of peace settle over me. Things were still uncertain. There would still be obstacles ahead. But in that moment, I realized that we had chosen each other, and that was enough. "You made the right choice," I said softly, leaning into him. He smiled, his arm wrapping around me. "I'm glad you think so. But the real choice was deciding to fight for us, for what we have. I'm not going to stop doing that, Lena." I looked up at him, my heart full of gratitude and love. "Neither am I," I whispered. And in that moment, as the night stretched out before us, I knew that no matter what came next, we would face it together. The path ahead wasn't going to be easy, but as long as we had each other, I knew we could make it work. We would build the life we both wanted, side by side. I never imagined that something as simple as a weekend getaway would bring so much clarity to our relationship. After the decision to balance Alex's career and our time together, I thought we had a good handle on things, but this trip turned out to be more than just a break from our routine. It became a turning point, not just for us, but for the way I saw our future together. We had planned this weekend months in advance, and I had been looking forward to it as a chance for us to disconnect from everything and just focus on each other. The cabin was tucked away in the mountains, far from the pressures of work, and for the first time in a while, Alex seemed truly relaxed. No phone calls, no emails, just the two of us and the beautiful, peaceful surroundings. It was exactly what we needed. We spent our days hiking, cooking, and exploring the area. It wasn't about luxury or extravagance. It was about being present, about reconnecting in a way we hadn't been able to for months. There was something so simple, yet so powerful, about the way we were able to enjoy the quiet, to have deep conversations without the constant distractions of our everyday lives. One afternoon, as we sat on the porch with our coffee, watching the sun set behind the mountains, I couldn't help but feel a sense of contentment. This was the kind of life I had wanted, simple, real, and full of love. It was the kind of life that Alex and I were building, step by step. "I'm glad we came here," I said, looking over at Alex. "Me too," he replied, his eyes soft as he looked at me. "I think I needed this more than I realized. Just being with you, without all the noise, it's given me perspective. I've been so focused on what's next, on my career, that I forgot to focus on what's right in front of me." I reached out and took his hand, feeling a warmth spread through me at his words. We both get caught up in the rush sometimes, I said quietly. But I think we're doing better. We're learning, growing, together. He squeezed my hand and nodded. I don't want to take this for granted, Lena. I know I've made mistakes, and I know that there's still a lot to figure out. But I'm here, and I want to keep working on this with you. I smiled, my heart full. This wasn't just about the big moments. It was about the small, everyday things that made our connection so strong. I'm here, too, Alex, I said softly. We've come so far already. I know it won't always be easy, but I'm ready to keep moving forward with you. That night, as we sat around the fire pit, roasting marshmallows and talking about everything and nothing, I realized that I had never felt more at peace with where we were. There was still uncertainty, of course, there always would be. But the trust we had built, the love we shared, was stronger than ever. We were learning to adapt to each other's worlds, to compromise without losing ourselves in the process. And I knew that as long as we kept communicating, as long as we kept showing up for each other, we could handle anything life threw our way. The weekend passed by quickly, and before we knew it, we were packing up to return to the city. But even as we left the mountains behind, I felt different. The clarity I had found there, in that peaceful cabin, stayed with me. I knew that our journey together wasn't going to be perfect, that there would be challenges ahead. But I also knew that we were stronger than we had been when we first started. As we drove back home, I glanced over at Alex, who was driving with one hand on the wheel, his other hand resting on mine. The weight of his career, the expectations, and the pressure were still there, but there was a new sense of peace between us. We didn't have all the answers, but we had each other, and that was enough for now. When we returned to the city, life quickly resumed its usual pace. Alex dove back into his work, but this time, there was a difference. He was more present, more intentional with his time. We made sure to schedule our weekends, to plan time together no matter how busy life got. It wasn't always easy, but we were committed to making it work. And as the weeks passed, I realized that this was what I had always wanted. It wasn't about grand gestures or perfect moments. It was about the quiet, consistent effort to show up for each other every day. We weren't perfect, and we weren't always on the same page, but we were in it together. And that made all the difference. Looking back on everything, I realized how far we had come. From the uncertainty and the fear of losing ourselves, to the clarity and the strength we had found in each other. It wasn't just about building a life together. It was about building a life that we both wanted, one that was true to who we were. We had learned that love wasn't just about the easy times. It was about working through the hard times, communicating, and growing together. And for the first time, I truly felt like we were on the right path, the path that would lead us to the future we both wanted. I had thought that after everything we had been through, Alex and I were finally in a good place, but life has a funny way of testing the strength of relationships. The months that followed our weekend getaway were a mixture of moments of happiness and small tensions. Alex was still working hard, but there was a shift in him. He was trying to make more time for us, but the balance was delicate, and there were days when I could sense the pressure building again. As his role at the company continued to grow, I noticed that the stress he had worked so hard to avoid was creeping back into his life. It was subtle at first, but I began to feel it, his exhaustion, his lack of presence, the way his mind would wander in the middle of conversations. I couldn't ignore it. One evening, we were sitting in the living room of his apartment, a rare night when we didn't have anything pressing on our schedules. I had been waiting for him to bring up what had been on my mind for days. But he didn't. He was quieter than usual, absent even when he was physically present. "Alex, what's going on?" I asked gently, putting down my book and turning toward him. He didn't look up right away, taking a deep breath before he finally met my gaze. "I've been thinking about something," he said, his voice low. "About my job, about us." I could tell there was something heavy weighing on him, and I couldn't just wait for him to volunteer it. "What is it?" I asked, my heart starting to race. "I don't know if I can keep doing this," Alex said, his voice barely above a whisper. "The pressure is getting to me. I'm being pulled in so many directions. Work, the board, my personal life. And I feel like I'm not doing anything well. I'm not being the partner I want to be. I'm not being the man I want to be." His words hit me harder than I expected. I had seen him struggle before, but this felt different. This was deeper. I moved closer, placing my hand on his. "Alex," I said softly, "you don't have to do it all by yourself. We're a team. We've always been a team. Whatever's going on, We can figure it out together. Alex shook his head, his eyes filled with frustration. But I don't know if I can keep up with this, Lena. I've been pushing so hard, and it's like I'm losing myself in the process. I can't keep sacrificing everything else for work. But when I take a step back, I feel like I'm letting everyone down. I could see the conflict in his eyes, the internal battle he was fighting. The pressure to succeed was taking its toll on him, and he didn't know how to handle it without sacrificing something or someone along the way. I took a deep breath, trying to steady my own emotions. I'm not going anywhere, Alex, I said firmly. We're going to figure this out. You don't have to do this alone. You've done amazing things with your career, but I need you to see that you're not losing everything else in the process. You're not losing me. His gaze softened, but the tension didn't leave his face. I'm scared, Lena, he admitted, his voice cracking slightly. Scared that I won't be able to do both. I don't want to let you down, but I'm scared that if I keep going down this path, I'll lose you anyway. I couldn't help but feel my heart ache for him. This wasn't just about his career anymore. It was about him being afraid to fail at something that mattered more than anything to him, our relationship. Alex, you don't need to be perfect, I said, my voice steady and sure. We don't need everything to be perfect, but we do need each other. We're not in this just to survive. We're in this to thrive. Together. There was a long silence, a heavy silence. And then Alex finally spoke again, his voice softer this time. I want that, Lena. I want to be the man who can balance it all, who can be the partner you deserve. I just don't know if I'm capable of doing that. I reached out and touched his face gently. You are, I said quietly. And we don't need to have all the answers right now. We just need to keep talking, keep making the effort. That's what matters. We don't have to have everything figured out today or tomorrow, but as long as we're on the same page, we can get through this. Alex's expression softened, and for the first time in a long time, I saw a flicker of relief in his eyes. Thank you, Lena, he said, his voice thick with emotion. I don't deserve you. I shook my head, smiling softly. You don't need to be perfect, Alex. We're a work in progress, and that's okay. The next few weeks were a turning point for us. Alex started to take his work-life balance more seriously. He cut back on his hours when he could, scheduled more time off, and even took a few days to simply be present with me, with us. It wasn't an overnight change, but we were making progress. We were learning how to be a team again, how to support each other without losing sight of who we were individually. And slowly, I could see Alex regaining his confidence, not just in his career, but in his role as my partner. One evening, as we sat in the park, watching the sun set over the city, Alex turned to me with a genuine smile on his face. I'm learning, Lena, he said, his voice calm and steady. I'm learning to let go of the idea that I have to do everything myself. And I'm learning that I don't have to be perfect to be the man you deserve. I'm getting there, little by little. I smiled, feeling a sense of peace settle over me. We're both getting there, I said softly, resting my head on his shoulder. And that's all we can do. Keep moving forward, one step at a time. In that moment, I knew that no matter what challenges came our way, we were ready to face them together. Because the truth was, we had already come so far, and as long as we had each other, there was nothing we couldn't handle. I had always believed that love required some level of sacrifice, that relationships demanded compromise and understanding. But what I hadn't fully grasped until now was that love also required growth, both as individuals and as a couple. As Alex and I continued to navigate the complexities of our lives, I began to see just how much we were evolving, and how far we had come since the days of uncertainty and doubt. I had thought that the biggest hurdle we'd face would be his career, the endless cycle of work, travel, and pressure. But the truth was, as we made it through that challenge, another one appeared on the horizon. A few months after we had returned from our getaway, Alex received an offer that threw us both into a whirlwind. A job offer that, on paper, seemed like a dream come true. A chance for him to take his career to new heights, to lead a major initiative that could change the trajectory of his future. At first, it seemed like the kind of opportunity anyone would jump at, but the timing couldn't have been worse. The more Alex and I discussed it, the more I realized that the path ahead was uncertain, filled with both promise and potential pitfalls. It wasn't just about whether or not Alex should take the offer. It was about how this decision would affect us, our lives together. I could see how much this opportunity meant to him. I saw the excitement in his eyes, the the way he spoke about the challenges and possibilities. But there was a part of me that couldn't ignore the gut feeling that this was going to push us into another period of uncertainty. Alex had already been working tirelessly, and now this new role would demand even more of his time, more of his energy. The fear that had lingered in the back of my mind was slowly becoming a reality. "Lena," Alex said one evening, as we sat down to talk about the offer, "I've been thinking a lot about this. I know it's a big decision, but I don't want to make it without your input. I need to know how you feel about this." I looked at him, trying to keep my emotions in check. "I can't make this decision for you, Alex," I said softly, "but I do need to know what this means for us. If you take this, it will change everything. I need to know that we're still going to be able to have a life together." Alex nodded, understanding the weight of my words. "I know. I don't want to lose us, Lena, but I also can't ignore this opportunity. It's everything I've worked for. I don't know what to do." I paused, thinking carefully about my response. "You have to follow what's right for you, Alex," I said, my voice steady. "But you also have to understand that I'm not willing to lose us in the process. We've come so far, and I don't want all of that to unravel just because of a job. I can't do that. I won't do that." He was quiet for a long moment, his eyes searching mine as if trying to gauge my thoughts. Finally, he spoke. "I don't know if I can have it all, Lena. I don't know if I can be the man you need and also achieve everything I want in my career." "You don't have to do it all," I said firmly. "We're in this together, but you don't have to sacrifice who you are or who we are just for success. We can find a balance. We always have." Alex looked down at his hands, his mind clearly racing. "I'm afraid," he admitted. "I'm afraid that if I don't take this, I'll regret it. And if I do, I'm afraid I'll lose you." The vulnerability in his voice was enough to break my heart. He wasn't just afraid of the career change. He was afraid of losing the one thing that mattered most. "Alex," I said softly, "I'm not going anywhere. But we need to figure out how to make this work. If you choose this, we have to find a way to make it work for both of us. Not just for you, or just for me. I want to be with you, but I need you to be with me too." There was a long silence before he finally nodded. "I know," he said quietly. "I don't want to keep making these decisions on my own. I need you, Lena." The next few weeks were filled with deep conversations, the kind that are not easy to have, but are necessary for growth. We talked about our fears, our hopes, and the future. We explored every possibility, weighed every option, and slowly, we began to understand what needed to be done. Alex decided to take the job offer, but on one condition: he would put limits on how much time it would take away from us. He made a promise to himself, and to me, that he would never lose sight of what mattered most. His career was important, but it wasn't everything. What we had built together was. That decision marked a new chapter for us. It wasn't perfect, and there were still times when the balance felt fragile, but we were committed to making it work. We learned to communicate even more openly, to support each other through the ups and downs, and to prioritize our relationship no matter what. As the months went by, the pressure of his new role began to settle into a routine. Alex found ways to make more time for us, even if it meant turning down some opportunities or delegating more responsibilities. We traveled when we could, took long walks on weekends, and made sure to never lose sight of the small things that kept us grounded. And in those moments, I realized just how much we had grown, both as individuals and as a couple. The challenges had tested us, but they had also brought us closer. We weren't perfect, but we were stronger than we had ever been. And as I looked at Alex, as I saw him striving to balance his career and his personal life, I knew that we had built something worth fighting for. It wasn't just about surviving, it was about thriving together. I had always believed that love was about understanding and compromise, but it wasn't until Alex and I faced yet another challenge that I realized love was also about resilience, about continuing to fight for what you have, even when life throws curveballs your way. The months after Alex accepted his new role were marked by small victories and adjustments. But just as we had settled into a more balanced routine, the universe threw us yet another challenge, one that would test our relationship in ways we hadn't expected. It started with a phone call. Alex had been at work all day, in back-to-back meetings, and I had spent the afternoon catching up on some things around the house. When he finally called me in the evening, his voice sounded strained. "Lena," he said, "I need to tell you something." My heart skipped a beat. I could hear the weight in his voice, and I instantly knew it wasn't going to be good news. "What is it?" I asked, trying to steady myself. I just got some news from work. There's been a shake-up with the project I'm managing. They want me to take it in a completely different direction, and it means I'm going to have to make some tough decisions. I'll be traveling a lot more, and it's all happening very quickly. I could feel my chest tighten. We had just gotten to a point where we were managing his demanding job, but now this new twist seemed like it was going to pull us right back to square one. How bad is it? I asked, my voice quiet but full of concern. I'm not sure yet, Alex said, his voice tinged with frustration. But it's going to require a lot of time, a lot of energy, and I don't know how to balance it all. I don't want to let you down again, Lena. His words hung in the air between us, and for a moment, I couldn't find the right thing to say. It wasn't that I didn't understand how hard this was for him. I knew how much this job meant to him, how much effort he had put into getting where he was. But I also knew that this wasn't just his struggle. It was mine, too. Alex, I'm not going anywhere, I said softly, trying to reassure him, though I wasn't sure if I was reassuring myself more than him. But I need you to promise me something. What? He asked, his voice quiet. I need you to promise me that this time, you'll let me in, I said. I can't do this alone. We need to face this together. If we don't communicate, if you don't let me be a part of it, I'm afraid we'll start losing what we've worked so hard for. Alex was silent for a long moment, and when he finally spoke, I could hear the weight in his voice. I don't want to lose you, Lena. I'm just so afraid of failing you again. I've tried so hard to make this work, but I don't know how to make it all fit together. His words broke my heart. I had never seen him so vulnerable, so unsure. But it was in that moment, as I looked at him, that I realized how much we had truly built together. The foundation we had worked so hard to create was still there, and I was willing to fight for it. We're not perfect, Alex. We never will be, I said, my voice steady. But we're in this together. We've faced challenges before, and we'll face them again. I don't want you to carry this weight on your own. That night, we spent hours talking about what this new chapter in Alex's career meant for us. He told me about the pressure he was under, the expectations from his bosses, and the overwhelming sense of responsibility he felt. And I told him about my own fears, the fear of being left behind, of being put second to his job, of losing the connection we had worked so hard to maintain. By the end of the conversation, we had both said things that had been sitting in the back of our minds for months. There were no easy answers, but there was a mutual understanding that we needed to be proactive in our relationship. We couldn't let the pressures of his career or the demands of life pull us apart. We had to make time for each other. The next few weeks weren't easy. Alex's workload grew heavier, and the time we spent together became less frequent. But we didn't let it break us. Instead, we adapted. We scheduled regular date nights, even if it meant staying in and watching movies on the couch. We made the most of the time we had, finding ways to connect even when we were physically apart. I had to learn to be patient again, and Alex had to learn to ask for help when he needed it. It wasn't perfect. There were moments of frustration, of longing, of doubt. But in those moments, we communicated. We didn't let the silence linger for too long. One evening, a few weeks later, as I sat in the kitchen preparing dinner, Alex walked in and pulled me into his arms. I know it's been hard, he said softly, but I want you to know that I'm doing everything I can to make sure we don't lose what we have. You're the most important thing in my life, Lena, and I'm not taking that for granted. I closed my eyes, feeling a sense of relief wash over me. I knew it wouldn't always be easy. There would still be challenges ahead, but in that moment, I felt more certain than ever that we could face anything, as long as we were facing it together. The next few months saw more of the same. Alex's work continued to demand his attention, but we were learning to find balance. And slowly, we were rebuilding our foundation, brick by brick, learning how to move forward without losing sight of what mattered most. We weren't perfect, but we were real. And in the end, that's all we needed. I had always thought that once Alex and I figured out how to balance our busy lives, things would become easier. But as the months passed, I began to realize that no matter how much we worked on our relationship, life would always throw challenges our way. It wasn't just his career that continued to shift and demand his attention. It was the world around us that was constantly changing. The pressures, the expectations, they were always there. Yet, through it all, I had to remind myself that this was our journey, and we had to keep adjusting, evolving, and supporting each other. It was a Saturday afternoon when the next test came. Alex had returned from a week-long business trip, and while we were excited to spend time together, I could sense that he was preoccupied. His phone was buzzing constantly, and every time he glanced at it, I saw the weight of the decisions he was facing. The meeting he'd had that week had opened up new possibilities, but it had also added pressure to an already heavy workload. That evening, as we sat on the couch, I couldn't ignore the tension between us. "You're distracted," I said gently, watching as he scrolled through his emails. "Talk to me, Alex. What's going on?" He set his phone down with a sigh, looking at me with exhaustion in his eyes. "I've been given another offer," he said quietly. "This one's different. It's a leadership position, something that could change everything. But it's going to mean even more of my time, more travel, more pressure. I'm not sure if I can handle it, but I also don't want to miss this opportunity. I don't know what to do." I could see the uncertainty in his eyes. It wasn't just the job, it was the fear of losing everything else that mattered to him. "Alex," I said, taking his hand, "you have to make the decision that's right for you. But we've been through so much together already. We can't keep putting everything on hold for work. If you choose this, we need to be sure we're still a priority. I'm not saying you should turn it down, but we need to figure out how to make this work without sacrificing us." Alex's face softened, and for a moment, I saw a flicker of relief. "I don't want to lose us, Lena," he admitted, his voice full of sincerity. "I don't want my work to come between us. But at the same time, I don't want to regret not taking this chance. I just don't know how to balance everything." I nodded, understanding the difficult position he was in. "We'll figure it out," I said, my voice steady. "But we have to promise each other that no matter what happens, we're in this together. I need you to commit to that, Alex. I need to know that you're not going to pull away from me, from us, just because things get harder." Alex held my gaze for a long moment, the weight of the decision settling in. Finally, he spoke, his voice firm. "I promise you, Lena, I'll do whatever it takes. I'm not going to let my career get in the way of what we've built. You and I, we're a team." We spent the rest of the evening talking, weighing the pros and cons of the new opportunity. But in that moment, I realized that the job was just one piece of the puzzle. The real question was whether we were both willing to fight for what we had. Could we keep prioritizing each other, even when life became more complicated? In the end, Alex decided to take the offer. He agreed to the promotion, but with clear boundaries. He made a commitment to not let work consume him, to not let it take over our time together. It wasn't going to be easy. There were still long nights and moments of doubt, but we both knew that the choice to make our relationship a priority was the most important decision. Over the next few months, things began to stabilize. Alex's new role was demanding, but he kept his promise. He carved out time for us, even when his schedule was packed. We began to travel more, even if it was just for a weekend getaway, and we made sure to stay connected through small gestures: a text in the middle of the day, a phone call during a break, a quiet dinner after a long week. And although we still faced challenges, we were learning how to communicate better, how to support each other in ways that mattered. The trust we had built over time was growing stronger. One night, after another week of nonstop work, Alex came home late. I was sitting on the couch, reading a book, when he walked in and immediately sat down beside me. He leaned back against the cushions and closed his eyes for a moment, letting out a deep breath. "It's been one of those weeks," he said with a tired smile. I looked at him, noticing how drained he seemed, but there was something different about the way he spoke. "I know," I said gently, "but you're here now. We have time. Let's make the most of it." He turned to me, his smile widening as he pulled me closer. "I'm sorry if I've been distant. I've been so focused on work that I forgot to be present. But I'm here now, and I want to be here with you. You're everything to me, Lena. I don't want to forget that again." In that moment, I knew that the journey we had been on wasn't just about facing obstacles. It was about learning how to grow and adapt as partners. We didn't have all the answers, but we were finding our way together. And that was enough. The next few months were filled with more of the same: adjustments, challenges, and growth. But with each passing day, we were building a life that was more in tune with what we wanted, a life where we didn't have to sacrifice each other for success. We were learning to thrive together. I never expected that the steady rhythm we had been working so hard to maintain would ever face another test. But that's the thing about life. It throws the unexpected at you, just when you think you've got it all figured out. Alex and I had spent the last few months getting used to his new position, learning how to make the time we had together count. and making sure we didn't lose the connection we had built. But just when we were settling into a new normal, the pressure of his work took on a new form. The company Alex worked for had been in a phase of rapid expansion, and as a result, there were more changes coming down the pipeline. A major project that Alex had been involved in had just been announced, and while he was excited about it, I could tell that the weight of it was starting to settle in. One evening, as I was sitting at home after a long day, Alex came through the door looking more drained than I had ever seen him. His suit was wrinkled from a long day at the office, and his normally bright eyes were clouded with exhaustion. Without saying a word, he sat down next to me on the couch, and I immediately noticed how tightly he was gripping his phone, almost as if it was the only thing keeping him grounded. "How was your day?" I asked, my voice soft and concerned. He didn't answer at first, just leaned back, closing his eyes as if trying to escape the pressure for a moment. After a few beats, he finally spoke. "It's getting harder, Lena," he said, his voice low. "There's just so much riding on this project, and I feel like I'm drowning in it. I thought I could manage it, but I'm starting to realize that I can't do this alone." My heart sank at the raw emotion in his voice. I had seen him struggle before, but this was different. This wasn't just about his career. This was about him feeling like he was losing control of everything. I placed a hand on his knee, my touch gentle but steady. "You don't have to do it alone," I said softly. "We've been through so much together, and I'm not going anywhere. Whatever you're facing, we'll face it together." Alex looked at me, his gaze filled with frustration and uncertainty. "I don't know how to make this work, Lena. The more I try, the more I feel like I'm slipping away from everything. My work is taking over again, and I'm afraid that I'm going to lose what matters most to me in the process. You're everything to me, and I don't want to lose you." The vulnerability in his voice shook me. I knew how much this meant to him, but I also knew how much we had already worked to build a life together. "Alex, we're a team. We've been fighting for this from the beginning, and we're not stopping now. Whatever happens with this project, we can't lose sight of what we have." I took a deep breath, my heart aching with the weight of the situation. "But I need you to promise me something. Promise me that you won't pull away from me just because things are tough. We've been through hard times before, but we always come out stronger on the other side. We'll do that again. Together." He exhaled slowly, rubbing his hands over his face as if trying to shake off the tension. After a long pause, he finally nodded. "I promise, Lena. I'm sorry for pulling away before. I didn't want to, but I thought I had to. I don't want to keep doing that." I smiled, feeling a sense of relief wash over me. It was clear that Alex wasn't just talking about the job. He was talking about us, our future, the love we had worked so hard to build. "We'll figure it out, Alex," I said softly. "But we need to make sure we're talking, that we're both on the same page. This isn't just about you trying to juggle everything. It's about us working through it, as a team." Over the next few days, Alex made an effort to take control of his schedule, to cut back on the late nights at the office, and to be more present when he was home. It wasn't easy, and there were moments when I could see the stress still weighing heavily on him. But it was a step in the right direction. We were learning how to communicate more openly, to ask for help when we needed it, and to make sure we were prioritizing each other, not just the pressures of work. One night, after a long day, Alex and I decided to take a walk through the city. The weather was crisp, the night air fresh, and for the first time in a while, I felt like we were just enjoying the moment. We talked about everything: our future, our dreams, the challenges we faced. It wasn't a conversation about work or deadlines. It was a conversation about us. As we walked, I could see the change in him. The tension in his shoulders had loosened, and there was a new lightness to his step. "I'm starting to realize something," Alex said as we strolled down the quiet street. "All the work in the world won't mean anything if I lose what's truly important to me. And that's you, Lena. I can't keep letting work take over everything." I stopped walking for a moment, looking at him. "You don't have to choose, Alex," I said softly. "You can have both, your career and our life together. But you have to be willing to make room for both. We're not a side project. We're your life too." He nodded, taking my hand in his. "I hear you, and I'm going to make sure I never forget it again." In that moment, I realized that the journey wasn't just about surviving the tough times. It was about growing through them, together. We still had a long road ahead, but I felt more certain than ever that, as long as we kept prioritizing each other, we would find a way to make it work. Together. I had always believed that a strong relationship was built on communication, trust, and shared values. But there was something that I had to learn through this experience with Alex. That love is also about understanding that not everything can be planned, and that sometimes you have to embrace the unexpected. The weeks after our walk through the city felt like a turning point. Alex had made a commitment to better balance his work and personal life, but the reality was that it wasn't an easy transition. His new responsibilities at work continued to pull him in different directions, but he was trying. We spent more quality time together, and each time we did, it became clearer that we were stronger as a couple. It wasn't about perfection, it was about growth. One Friday night, as we were finishing dinner at home, Alex turned to me with a serious expression. I noticed a hint of hesitation in his eyes, and it made my heart race. "Lena, I've been thinking a lot about everything," he said slowly. "I think I've been so focused on trying to balance everything that I've lost sight of what I really want. What we really want." I stopped what I was doing, my full attention on him. "What do you mean?" I asked, my heart pounding. He took a deep breath. "I'm realizing that I've been living my life for everyone else. My career, the expectations from work, the pressure to succeed. And I haven't been truly honest with myself. What I really want is to make sure that we're building a future together, Lena. I don't want to spend my days chasing something that leaves me empty. I want to build something meaningful with you, something we both want." His words hit me deeply. I knew how much Alex had sacrificed for his career, how hard he had worked to get where he was. But hearing him admit that he was ready to change his priorities made me feel like we were finally on the same page. "I want that too," I said softly. "I don't need a perfect life, Alex. I just need you. And I want us to build something together. Something real, something that matters." There was a pause as he looked at me, his eyes filled with a mixture of relief and uncertainty. "But how do we even begin?" he asked, his voice low. I smiled, feeling the weight of the moment settle in. "We start by being honest with each other," I said. "We need to keep talking, keep adjusting, and keep making time for each other. I know it's not going to be easy, but if we're both committed to this, we can make it work." Over the next few months, things began to shift. Alex took steps to regain control of his life, both professionally and personally. He started delegating more at work, taking fewer late-night meetings, and setting boundaries that allowed him to focus more on our relationship. It wasn't always perfect, but the effort was there. We spent more weekends together, more nights talking about our future, and more days making memories. But there were still moments when the pressure would return. On one particular afternoon, as I sat in the living room, Alex came home earlier than usual. His face was pale, and there was a heaviness in his steps. I immediately knew something wasn't right. "Alex, what happened?" I asked, standing up to greet him. He shook his head slowly, running a hand through his hair. "I just got back from a meeting," he said, his voice flat. "There's been a huge shakeup at work. The project I've been managing is facing some serious challenges, and now I'm being asked to take on even more. I'm feeling the weight of it, Lena. I don't know how much more I can handle." I walked over to him and took his hand, my heart aching at the exhaustion in his eyes. "Alex, I can see how hard you're trying," I said gently. "But you don't have to carry all of this on your own. I'm here. You've always been there for me, and I'm going to be here for you." He looked at me, his face tired, but there was a glimmer of appreciation in his gaze. "I know. I don't want to keep running away from this. I just need to figure out how to make everything fit without losing myself in it again." I smiled softly. "We'll figure it out together. We always do. You don't have to do this alone, Alex." That conversation marked another shift for us. It wasn't just about him finding a way to balance his career. It was about us finding a way to be partners in every sense of the word. Alex continued to work hard, but this time, we made sure that he didn't lose sight of what mattered most, us. A few weeks later, as we sat in the park watching the sunset, Alex turned to me with a thoughtful expression. "Lena," he said softly, "I've been thinking. I know we've had our challenges, but I don't want to take for granted what we've built. I know I've made mistakes, and I know I still have a lot to figure out, but I'm more committed than ever to making this work with you. I don't want to lose what we have." I took a deep breath, my heart full. "I'm committed to us too, Alex. We don't have to be perfect, but as long as we're trying, I know we can get through anything." In that moment, as I looked at him, I knew that we had grown stronger, not in spite of our challenges, but because of them. We had learned that love wasn't just about the good times. It was about sticking together through the tough ones, communicating, compromising, and and always choosing each other. We still had a long way to go, but I was more certain than ever that we were ready for whatever came next. Together, I had always known that relationships required hard work, but as Alex and I stood together in the face of everything life had thrown at us, I began to realize that love wasn't just about the good times. It was about the perseverance to keep fighting for what mattered, even when the road ahead seemed uncertain. We had learned so much over the past year, and it felt like we had reached a place where we were no longer just surviving, but thriving. Our communication had become stronger, our bond deeper, and our commitment to one another unwavering. Yet, just as we thought we had finally found a balance, another unexpected challenge came our way. One evening, I received a call from my family. My father had been ill for some time, and though I had been keeping tabs on his condition, the news that night was different. The doctors had said that things were worsening, and they recommended that we prepare ourselves for what was to come. The weight of the phone call settled on me like a heavy fog. I immediately called Alex, my voice shaking as I explained the situation. Without hesitation, he told me to pack a bag and get ready to go. "We'll figure this out together," he said calmly. "Don't worry about anything else. I'll be right there." In that moment, I felt both a sense of gratitude and a deep sadness. Here we were, still navigating the ups and downs of our own lives. And yet, life had once again reminded me how fragile everything really was. Alex was there for me in a way I hadn't fully understood until that moment. He didn't just promise to support me. He showed up, fully present, without question. As we drove to my hometown, the uncertainty of the situation lingered. I knew that things might never be the same with my father, and that thought broke my heart. But Alex's steady presence beside me gave me the strength to keep going. When we arrived, I was surrounded by family, and though it was a difficult time, there was also a sense of togetherness. Alex was by my side, offering silent support, helping where he could, and just being there for me when I needed it most. As the days went by, we found a rhythm. Alex made sure to take care of practical matters, allowing me the space I needed to focus on my family and my father. It wasn't always easy. There were moments of tension, frustration, and sadness, but we made it through together. As the week went on, I saw how far we had come as a couple. We had always known that life would throw challenges at us, but what I had learned through this experience was that love isn't just about getting through the good times. It's about showing up when it matters the most, no matter how difficult or uncomfortable. After my father's condition worsened, we had to make the painful decision to say goodbye. It was a heartbreaking moment, but as I sat with my family, surrounded by the people who had supported me through everything, I realized that I wasn't alone. Alex had never left my side, and in that moment, I understood just how much he had been willing to sacrifice for me. His time, his energy, his heart. When we finally returned home, I felt exhausted, but also strangely at peace. We had weathered yet another storm, and although it hadn't been easy, we had emerged stronger. We knew that life would always bring challenges, but I also knew that as long as we kept our commitment to one another, we could face anything that came our way. As the weeks passed, things began to settle. The grief from losing my father didn't go away, but I found comfort in the small moments, being with Alex, going for walks, cooking meals together, and simply being present with each other. We had learned that the greatest gift we could give each other was not grand gestures, but the willingness to show up, day after day, through the highs and lows of life. One evening, as we sat together on the balcony watching the sunset, I looked at Alex and smiled. "You know," I said, "I've been thinking. We've been through so much, but I feel like we've come out stronger on the other side." Alex turned to me, his expression softening. "We have," he said, taking my hand. "I think we've learned that love is more than just a feeling. It's about showing up for each other, no matter what. We've proven that to each other over and over again." I nodded, my heart full. "And I'm glad we're doing this together. I'm not afraid of whatever comes next because I know we'll face it as a team." He smiled, squeezing my hand. "We will, Lena. We always will." And as we sat there, with the fading light of the sunset reflecting in the windows, I realized that we had come a long way. We had faced countless obstacles, but each challenge had brought us closer, had taught us more about ourselves and each other. We weren't perfect, but we didn't need to be. We had something real, something worth holding on to. And as I looked at Alex, I knew that no matter what the future held, we would continue to grow, continue to build a life together, one step at a time, hand in hand. I have always believed that a strong relationship is built on trust, communication, and understanding. In these millionaire stories, it's clear that even with wealth and success, the journey of finding balance between career, love, and personal life can be challenging. As we follow this story of love and sacrifice, we see how the characters work through complex challenges in their relationship. These millionaire stories remind us that success in business doesn't necessarily equate to happiness in life. The real test is the ability to navigate difficult moments together, as Alex and Lena demonstrate in their journey. The deeper themes explored in these millionaire stories show us how love can overcome adversity when both partners are committed to the relationship. In these kinds of millionaire stories, we often see individuals making difficult choices to protect the things that matter most to them. As their lives shift and change, the love they share remains a constant, even in the face of overwhelming challenges. This tale is a powerful reminder that success is not just about financial gains, but about creating meaningful connections that can weather any storm. In the end, these millionaire stories teach us that the most valuable things in life aren't the achievements, but the love and commitment we build along the way.